Okay, so back to 1919, difficult puzzle to translate. So, Gadol Fema no se onish, im tatzil ve'od tosif. So here are all the ambiguities. Greatness of wrath, or bigness of wrath, as we said yesterday, which was not a good articulate way to say it. And it's Gadol with the ksiv, sorry, with the kri. Ksiv is gral, which means like lottery or randomness. Fema of wrath. No se onesh. So that's the ambiguous phrase. No se means to carry, sustain, support, bear, or forgive. Onesh is punishment, but Sadigon said it is avonos, it is iniquities. Im tatzil, because if you save the od tosif, and you will also increase, or im tatil, if it saves, meaning it the wrath, vod tosif, it will increase. Okay, so the what do you call it? The translations, the actual translations that we read are, Sadigon says, one who is great in wrath bears iniquities, because when you are great in wrath, if you escape from something, you will add or increase in something else. Then ArtScroll said a person of great wrath will bear punishment, for if you rescue him, his wrath will only grow. Living Knox says a wrathful person incurs punishment. If you try to spare him, he will only get worse. Alter says a very hot-headed man bears punishment. Try to save him, you will make things worse. So the thrust that's in common for all of them is we're dealing with someone with great wrath, something about punishment, and then if you try to do something, it's going to make it worse somehow, or if someone tries to do something, it's going to make it worse. And our questions were, and so we tried to be broad in our questions because there's so many particulars. What does it mean to be Gadol Chema? What ownership are we talking about? What does it mean that if he escapes, it will increase, or if you save, then you will increase? What do we make of the Creek Siv, the Gadol Garal? And then what's the practical advice of the pasuk? Because the implication is like, if you try something, it'll make it worse. So are you supposed to just not try something, or is there a solution, like a chacham solution, you know? Like, I guess it's the options, try something and make it worse, or don't do anything and let it be bad? Or is it try something to make it worse, or there's a solution that actually can help? Yeah.
Or maybe it's speaking to that guy, and it's like trying to make him like reflect to realize, oh, I'm this guy, and I have this tendency.
Yes, right.
So I should not have this tendency.
Right. So that's another question which I think we did not raise, which is who is it for? And so if this is talking to the guy who is what do you call it, wrathful, then you could see an argument like that it's basically saying that it's like a form of damage control advice, that don't try to, like, don't go with your natural tendency, otherwise you're just going to make it worse. Instead, like, I don't know, that's what we have to, yeah. All right, so I feel like it would be prudent to start looking at meforshim here.
I'm just learning that we're trying to go for Tina.
Oh, that's right, yeah. If you save yourself, right, yeah.
We know the process of tatzil, which is like saving someone else.
Yeah, and there is a grammatical gap in the pasuk because it doesn't say the object of what you're saving. In tatzil, if you save. So maybe that's where Sadion's getting it from. If you save, and then the only person being talked about here is himself. So it must be if you save yourself. Yeah. So let's start off with Rabbeinu Yonah, because I think I only skimmed it. I didn't get a chance to look at all the meforshim that I usually look at. Rabbeinu Yonah seems to take it the way that Rashi took last pasuk. Okay, but he's taking it as a continuation. So let's look at Rabbeinu Yonah here.
Do they have each other's commentaries?
What was that?
Do they have each other's commentaries?
Rabbeinu, it's a good question. I've never seen Rabbeinu Yonah quote Rashi.
Were they contemporary?
No, Rabbeinu Yonah came later, about 150 years later, maybe.
Yeah, we're seeing quote the Rambam.
What was it?
We're seeing quote the Rambam.
Yeah. It's he's.
Well, yeah. Didn't he have a whole thing with the Rambam?
Right.
He wrote Shara Tshuva?
Yeah. He overlapped the Rambam at the end, and Rambam was in the 1165 to 1235. I don't know if I'm making that up. That sounds about right. Let me see if I gotta see if I'm right. Let's see. Rambam.
Something 05.
05, yeah.
Maybe the 6 looked like a 0.
Ooh, I was off. Yeah, you're right. Zev, you were right.
Yes.
1138 to 1204.
Oh, 4.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, back then, then the years weren't established yet. Yeah. Wow. So then,
30 something to 60 something.
I said 1160 something to 1230 something.
August 30th.
Wait, so when was he born?
He was born, well, this says he was born in 1138. I think we don't know his actual year. I think the birth year is a little off. So let's look at Rabbeinu Yonah while we're here, just, get our bearings. Rabbeinu Yonah, oh, so interesting. So we don't know when he was born, but he died in 1265. Okay, and then Rashi is always earlier than it feels like, 1040 to 1105. Yeah, so Rabbeinu Yonah could have conceivably had Rashi. It's hard to tell because Rabbeinu Yonah's style is not to quote people. Like, I can't think of him ever quoting people. So, I don't know.
I'm wondering if he was like learning the pasuk in order and Rashi lingering in the back.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rashi was 1040.
1040, yeah.
Wow, that's
Super early, right?
Yeah, that's when he was born.
That's when he was born, yeah. In AM. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
I feel like I was thinking of like the different eras of people as like very distinct.
Yeah,
So, like Rafurga lived until 1002.
right.
That's like very old.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I'm not necessarily for here, but in Lomdeha, I taught that, the thing in the 6th parak of Pirkei Avos, even though there's no such thing as the 6th parak of Pirkei Avos, where it says like the 48 things through which Torah is acquired. And then the last one is Omer Davar B'Shem Omro, and what do you call it? And then it quotes the thing about Esther and Mordecai, like she said in the name of Mordecai. So the question is like, how is this something that, how is Omer Davar B'Shem Omro something through which the Torah is acquired? Like, obviously, it's a good thing, right? So Bravanel says that it's so that the names of the Chachamim are mentioned in the base Midrash and you know who they are. And I was thinking about that I mean, and he doesn't expand on what the benefits of that are, but obviously it's beneficial in the sense of like, imagine a world in which you're doing all the learning that you're doing now, but no one ever mentioned anyone's names. It's insane. Like, you wouldn't know, yeah, it would, like, because there's like a fantasy of, it's pure ideas, but like the whole, one of the whole elements of the greatness of the Masorah is the fact that like we have different thinkers with different shitos, and like you can understand their lines of thinking in entire sugyas or in entire areas of philosophy, and then there's an order, and that you can seek out more knowledge from them when you know who they are. So anyway, I was thinking about this and discussing it. I was thinking that like there is a school of thought where like it's a waste of time to talk about biographical information about the Chachamim, but I personally feel that like the more I know about the Chachamim, the more the reality of who they were sticks in my mind. And then having like just taking like little forays like this into like did they live? Like you just get a clear idea of what their place in the Masorah was. And like, I think it's worthwhile to like go into, yeah.
Doesn't Rambam have like a line in Shimon Prokim where like he says he's not going to quote?
Yeah, no, I brought that up in shiur also. Yeah, I brought that up in shiur also. And so
why he doesn't quote anybody?
So it's why he doesn't quote anyone in Shimon Prokim, because he says it would be a waste of space. And he says that what was it?
Time also.
Yeah, time also for him and for the reader. But also he says that he's afraid, since he's quoting from Jewish and non-Jewish authorities, then if someone has a bias against the person, then it'll turn them off to the idea. So from there we said, apparently the Rambam holds that saying something b'shem omro either is overridden by other concerns. For example, if it's going to interfere with the learning, then it overrides it. Or his take on Homer Davar B'Shem Omro is primarily to negate you taking credit for something that's not yours. So he is being Makayim. In other words, so either he's overriding Davar B'Shem Omro, or he's being Makayim it, depending on how you learn it. But in the Mishnah Torah, the reason why he omits it is because that would definitely take up too much space, and that's not the purpose of the Mishnah Torah. It's to have pasuk. But yeah, but then he says he wishes he wrote another book that charted all the sources, because in his later years he couldn't remember where he got stuff from. So yeah, and no, he never wrote that book. The Kesef Mishnah tried, but yeah. Okay. Anyway, okay.
Just what you're saying about how if we didn't have names, it would be like very difficult to remember things. Like one example is how we keep talking about the in Rambam stuff, the hop.
Yeah.
Like if you were talking about nine mitzvahs for Hanukkah or no mitzvahs for Hanukkah, it's like it would be extremely confusing.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Rabbeinu Yonah, left column 3 down. Sorry, no. I'm on the wrong page.
Right column.
Right column. Yeah.
Four down.
Oh my.
Well, five.
Gadol Fema no se onesh. Afal pi. So I think this is after you walked in, Aaron. I'm saying that he's taking this as a continuation of the previous talk about chastising your son. Yeah.
What does Dural mean?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So we spent the entire day yesterday trying to translate the pasuk, and the translation is very, very confusing.
Okay.
And it's a Greek sieve. So the way you're supposed to read is gadal.
Uh-huh.
Garal means lottery, and one of the questions we raised is this one of the cases where the Greek sieve is like giving you part of the ideas, or is it a typo where like someone scratched off the dalid?
Well, the Greek is like pasuk kind of.
Listen to yesterday's share about it. And the first like there's like a 10-minute chunk where we talk about the yeah. Or I could summarize it for you later, but yeah.
It looks like the same letter.
Yeah. Okay, so Rabbeinu Yonah.
It's very slight.
We're not getting into that quagmire again. All right. Gadol Fema no se onesh. Alpha P shehis hircha shelo tachmo l'kol b'chio. Even though Shlomo warned you not to have compassion at the sound of his cry, meaning your son's cry. Im ata gadol fema ubal kas. But if you are someone who is great in wrath and an angry person, tisa onesh alav, you will bear punishment upon him, meaning for him. Sorry, on account of him. Im takenu yosem in a roy, if you hit him more than you should. Vatisa alav chet, and you will bear a punishment, a sin, kamosha te'anish al ish nafri. What? Kamosha te'anish al ish nafri. As you would for punishing a stranger?
No, I don't think you get punished for
Hitting a stranger? Oh, that's interesting. That's a interesting psychological way to deal with this. We got to get back to that in a second. Yeah. Im tatzil. I missed that when I read it this morning. Im tatzil v'otosif. Because if you save, you will increase more. That's again a hard to translate thing. Let's see how he does it. Kacha yeos lacha lasos. This is what is proper for you to do. So shetatzil oso miyadecha. Save him from your hand. Be'es chamasecha, at the time of your anger. Pentosif lahakoso aharoi makaraba, lest you hit him more than proper with a big hit. Ve'o tosif lahakoso, and you'll continue hitting him kiyavor zamecha. Kiyavor zamecha literally means when your anger passes, but I assume it means you'll keep hitting him until your anger passes, meaning like. Or is he saying?
You can resume.
Oh, you can resume striking him after your anger has passed. Yeah. Okay. Ki'im tatzil, and then this is important. Ki'im tatzil. Oh, by the way, just a note about how to read Rabbeinu Yonah on Mishlei. He'll give his perush, and then many times at the end he'll give the grammatical way that he deals with grammatical like ambiguities, and he'll give proofs. So like, that's why he has another Dibra Maskil with the same thing. Ki'im tatzil al derech ki'im kosasu lehem. So that is the pasuk in Devarim, and the pasuk in Devarim in Vaischanan says, so it says, you shall not intermarry with him, you shall not give your daughter to his son, you shall not take his daughter for your son, for he will cause your child to turn away from me, and they will worship the gods of others. Then Hashem's wrath will burn against you, and he will destroy you quickly. Ki'im kotasu lehem, mizbechosehem titotzun umatzevosam teshaberu. Rather, so shall you do to them. So he's learning the ki'im as rather, this is what you should do. So let's just get straight what his translation is and then see what his idea is. So his translation is, if you are great in wrath, then you will incur punishment, no se onesh, by hitting him too hard or hitting him more than is necessary. Ki'im tatzil, rather what you should do is tatzil, save, and then I guess maybe this is an explanation. He does not saying this, but maybe this is an explanation for why there's no object for save. If you save yourself and him, meaning you're saving him from getting hit more than necessary, and you're saving yourself from incurring punishment. Because if you save the otosif, then you can punish him later when you're not in a wrathful state. And then he had, yeah.
So you said a wrathful state?
Oh, yeah, girl, yeah. Oh.
Freudian slip.
Yeah. What do you call it? Yeah, Freudian slip is when it gets filtered through your psyche, not when it gets filtered through your mask. So what was the point he made about Vatisa Allah Pate Kamosha Te'anish al Ish Nachri? So I like your reading that basically that if you just went up and just hit a guy, then that's like you're gonna get punished for that.
Yeah.
And when you are in a state of anger and can't control how much you're disciplining your son, it's like you're just beating up on some nachri, like some random guy.
Yeah, I guess there's like a feeling of, oh, you're going like maybe a little bit too far.
Yeah.
It's just like a little too far, as opposed to like reframing hitting him more as like you're as if you're hitting right.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is jumping the gun, but I feel like I said this when we were doing Rashi, that a real disciplinary action, whether it's like tochacha or like corporal punishment or whatever, is based on what the recipient needs in order to learn and like move past their mistake, or like develop past it. So, but if you're just venting your anger, then you're really treating them as an object.
It's not disciplinary anymore.
It's not disciplinary anymore, right. And if it is disciplinary, like let's say for example, like you punishing him will get him to stop doing the behavior. It's accidental that it happened to be disciplinary. Like it could have easily have been not disciplinary, like because you're not really directing it for any purpose. You're just like venting your anger, So is that a good interpretation of the Nafri thing? It's like, you're no longer really punishing your son. You're just like venting this, doing a violent action against someone who could just be a stranger, And it is interesting, basically, that the practical advice it's giving, I think, is good. What's the practical advice?
Wait till you're not.
Wait till you're not angry. So it is interesting. It's not saying don't discipline your son at all. It's saying wait until you calm down and then can discipline him without getting angry. And I think that's a good intermediary thing because, like, this is not helping the guy deal with his. This is a good Mishlei point in general. Is like, whenever you talk about a bad midah in Mishlei, not all pasukim are helping you to get rid of the midah. This one is not helping you get rid of your anger. It's just helping you do damage control and saying like, don't give into it. And this will help you to get rid of your midah, but it's not telling you how to get over your short temper. Yeah. Okay, that's a good idea, right?
It's like guidelines about how to go about, I guess, guidelines for how to go about discipline as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's interesting if we ask the question, what's the subject of the pasuk? Because it is about the decision-making scenario of discipline, but it really is about how to deal with your wrath.
Right.
And in other words, if you apply this to other cases, I feel like this applies much more to, like, this guy can take the principle of how to deal with his wrath and use it in other areas, meaning, let's say like, he gets really angry when someone cuts him off in traffic, or on the road. So he might be inclined to retaliate. And this is saying, no, that's going to incur punishments, even though that has nothing to do with discipline, like just being aware that if I act in anger, then I'm just going to make the problem worse and expose myself to punishment. Then that's like a, success in wrath.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And also, yeah.
Do you think possible part of the reason it's not telling you how to not get angry is because sometimes the anger itself is justifiable? Like, I feel like there are times where getting angry is a normal, natural response, and obviously you shouldn't act in that anger and then act irrationally because of that. But to be angry itself is expected.
It's an interesting thing, right? Because and I don't. This is also something that is its own subject, but like the Rambam clearly states that anger and gaiva are. It's also those are the only two emotions that are like intrinsically destructive and that are never correct. Acting angry is sometimes necessary, but anger itself is you should distance yourself to the opposite extreme because anger distorts your thinking in a fundamental way that other emotions don't necessarily. All emotions distort your thinking, but anger, because it's tied to your ego, it warps your whole view of reality. That's why, like, anyone who gets angry, it's as if he worships Avodah Zarah, and anyone who gets haughty, it's as if he's denying God. Like, those are the two like extreme statements because all of them involve a distortion of what your actual place is in reality. So that's one answer to your question. Is I would say that and when you say the anger is justified, meaning it could be that the kid actually did something bad, but I don't think that justifies anger in any case because it's going to be a distorting factor. And also, another point. I don't know. Yeah, what are you gonna say?
Yeah.
It's contagious. Yeah. All right, should we do someone else in here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Who can we do? Let's do Metzudas David. Okay. On the bottom of the page.
Oh,
Yeah.
sort of remember. That in the case of cutting someone off, you have the same phenomenon where like you think that like, oh, he did it to me, so this is sort of like okay.
Yeah. There's a joke.
But
Yeah.
really just like cutting someone off, like
Oh, right. Exactly. Right. That's
just like this is like just
the
like
stranger
someone-
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's still, there's something really interesting about that
Yeah.
technique of, because what it does is it makes you realize if it's successful, it breaks you out of the justification by making you like contemplate, like, how would I look at myself if I just cut off a stranger in anger? Like it highlights like what I'm picturing here. Sorry, what I'm picturing here in my mind's eye. It's like a picture a stage where you have like two people like yelling at each other, and then all of the stage lights shut off, and there's just a spotlight on the guy who's angry, and says, "Let's look at this guy and see what is this guy doing." You know, it takes away the other party, and says, okay, well, let's look at what you're doing in isolation. And here we have a guy who's in the grips of an insane emotion and doing something that is destructive. You know,
Right.
Yeah.
You're sort of right. Like you're just focused on like is this the right thing to do now? Like not
I don't even know. I don't
not
know if
right.
you're even focusing. Yeah, I don't even know if you're focusing on that. You're just looking at like the fact that this person is not thinking. This person is not in control of his actions. I think is the salient point here. Meaning, because like what Joe was saying, like it might be right that this kid deserves punishment or could use punishment, but it's irrelevant because you're not actually using that as the basis of your decision. It's just a trigger, and then you're just like outletting and responding, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, and so when if you're just reacting like that,
Yeah.
then you're like, since your reaction isn't upon a reaction, you could be doing it in a justified scenario, and you just easily could be doing it in a non-justified scenario. And non-justified scenario is the same as if you're just hitting a random person on the street.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like,
And I do think
yeah.
I do think that the Goral is in line with the idea now, right? Because if you have if you have what do you call it? Great anger. I'm sorry, I'm laughing about something which I'll think about later. I can't get distracted by it. If you have great anger, it's just gonna end up. You think that you're doing it in a targeted way, but it's gonna end up being in a random way. You know? Yeah.
I feel like the Torah knows that anger is like, it's an emotion. It's one of the emotions, and this is just like a way to go about how to, I guess, after the anger, to how to express.
Yeah, but I think this is what I'm wondering about, that, and then what Joe was saying and what the Rambam is saying is again, at least according to the Rambam, it is an emotion, but anger and ego are fundamentally different than all other emotions.
Right.
You know, and I know I've thought about that before in Deos, but I just don't. I don't feel I have a grasp on it right now. But I also feel like that would take us a far field, in a good way. But I kind of want to understand this a little bit more.
Yeah, this is not saying that you shouldn't be angry, but I think it's decoupling the response to your anger from your anger from the response. So,
Yeah. Good word.
Yeah.
Decoupling. Yeah. Okay.
So it's something that's separated.
Two
things.
No, it's
Two
not,
things. Yeah. But I think decoupling is good because it's like they're
like,
attached.
Yeah, it's like let's say like a chain or something.
Yeah.
And you remove a link from the chain, that's decoupling.
Yeah, or like a horse from a wagon. But it's more specific than separating, is what we're saying. Yeah. Like for example, if you have like two siblings that are fighting and you can separate them, that's not decoupling them. It's not like they were attached and like you're unchaining them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Separating is like even if they're close together and you bring them.
Yeah. Right.
It's very vague.
Yeah. I can't believe we ever used that word in any case. Okay. I thought we were thinkers.
You're not separate, then you're disentangling.
I'm going to decouple myself from the word separate.
All right. It burns. Okay. Metzudas David. Gadol Chema. Mishu Gadol Chema, someone who is great in wrath. Yisa Onesh al Hamaso. He will bear punishment for his anger. Ki bavada yase ra al mi asher yichas. He will certainly do evil or harm someone who he's angry at. Ki im tatzil oso miyado. Because if you save him from his hand, now that sounds like if you save the victim from the angry guy's hand, right? Not if you save the angry guy from, right? Hine o tosif hamaso. It will increase his anger. That's how people who are angry operate. And if you stand at a distance, I think that's what Talmud mineged means. Yate masehu, he will do his actions. He is destined for punishment. Okay, so so let's get first how he's reading it differently. So he's saying if so the first half it sounds like almost the same, right? Someone who's great in wrath will incur punishment because he's going to do something bad in his state of anger. Mm-hmm. But if you save the person who he's directing his anger against, then his anger will increase. And if you stand at a distance, he'll act. Because what he's supposed to do, right? Because he's destined for punishment.
Yeah, he's saying you're not going to be able, like, you might think this guy is doing something angry.
Yeah.
This guy hurt this guy. I'm going to save him from this harm. I can save him.
Yeah.
But
he's only going to get more angry.
Because what he wants to do is harm the person.
Yeah.
Then if you save him, he's going to get more angry and do more. He's not going to be satisfied with just doing the action without harming the person.
Right. So this is the question then. So what are you supposed to do then?
Right.
Yeah.
I think he's just showing how this is a terrible situation because
right.
This guy's angry. No good outcome.
Right, but I feel like even though there's no good outcome, there should be a less bad outcome. Meaning, yeah. What do you say, Joe?
It seems to me like you're saying that this angry guy, is inevitably going to do something crazy.
Yeah.
So you might think I shouldn't save this guy because that might calm this guy's anger a little bit.
Yeah.
But the guy's going to do something crazy regardless. So you may as well save the victim and let him take out his wrath on whatever he's going to do.
Yeah, I mean,
that has to be what he's saying.
Yeah.
You're getting
a little angry.
Yeah. Like he's saying, let the guy just get beat up by this.
If I stop him, he's going to go say some other place, Yeah. I also feel like he has to be saying that, meaning the mistake that this is so it's interesting who's the audience of the pasuk according to this?
The saver.
The saver, right? Or the would-be saver, right?
Yeah, the person who's not involved with the angry person. Like either he's not the angry person and he's not even the person that he's angry against.
Yeah, right. Yeah, not the victim, not the object of wrath or the wrathful person, but the person who's like in a position to save. And so I do think, and so is this the direction we're going, which is that the mistake is I can prevent damage being done by this angry guy. And what it's saying is, no, you can't. He is going to do damage no matter what. The only thing you could do is prevent potential damage to this victim, prevent damage to this particular victim, but it's going to come out somewhere because he's mu'utad el ha'onesh, and he's going to get punished. Right. Meaning, so it sounds like the advice would be, so what would the practical advice be, is basically engage in whatever damage control makes the best sense to do, and there are different types of harm that would be like I mean, just to give an analogy, someone is drunk, having them have access to a car is going to create more potential for damage than just putting them in a padded cell with a straitjacket, and so the person is going to be behaving in the same way no matter what, but there are higher risk and higher damage areas and not. So like if you could get people out of this guy's way, then or things that are, let's say, irreparably damaged or harmful for himself, like he'll eventually vent his anger. And I guess that's the good thing about anger, is that anger does dissipate with time, in the sense of this is a wrathful guy, but he's not going to be, chances are he's not going to be as angry, the next morning as he was right now, so but you just got to minimize the potential for damage.
Yeah.
So what was what I thought? Like that seems to be ours.
Yeah.
Damage.
Right. It's a good question. I mean, the mistake is you think that you're going to prevent the anger. But see, I feel like people do make this mistake, meaning that they let's say, for example, let's say like you and Joe are fighting or something like that, right? And like, let's say I'm in a role of moderator, and like I managed to like convince you that like Joe didn't wrong you, okay? But you're still angry. So I might walk away thinking that, oh, I've solved the problem and like I've gotten rid of the anger. But if you are, and that's true for a normal relationship, but if you're a normal person, but if you're a wrathful person, that anger is going to come out somewhere else, you know? And
possibly even worse.
Yeah, possibly even worse. And yeah, because you're suppressing the main target of the thing. Does he say that, the Tosif? Oh, Tosif. So we said yesterday, Tosif, we weren't sure if it meant it's going to get worse or not end. No, I don't think that would be Tosif. What?
Add on a qualitatively different anger, like a different thing.
Didn't we have 2 readings of Tosif yesterday? Increase or just, or continue. Was
like,
it?
I think it was, yeah.
Add or increase is what that shortish
Yeah,
means.
It was like either it'll come out in a greater extent,
Right, or just in a different.
or like added somewhere else, like not like the same amount.
Yeah, right. Right. So like, let's say, yeah, I mean, and I'm saying that this comes up in real life also because like, again, this is not a good example, but you know, there are times when I was teaching high school where let's say a student gets really mad at another student or mad at a teacher, and like you quell that situation, but there's stuff boiling under the surface that is going to come out in some other way. And like, if you fake yourself out into thinking that you've dealt with that, then you're going to be oblivious to when this, to the potential for it to come up. And just while we're on it, just 1 second, is I know Metzudas David isn't saying this, but I think it is necessary for the wrathful person to know this also. Like, if they try to suppress their anger, it's going to come out somewhere. So they have to find healthy ways to deal with their anger. And there is, thank God Freud invented sublimation. No, but like, so there are ways to sublimate your anger, of like, whether it's like exercising or like, doing some creative thing, or like when I was a little kid, and I don't remember doing this that much, but I'm talking like a really little kid. My mom had this thing, 2 solutions for when, for if I got angry. She would, and if you ever want to try this, it is very satisfying. She would say, go into the bathroom, take toilet paper. What was that?
So I'm listening very closely.
Wet toilet paper, and just throw it at the wall as hard as possible. It makes this satisfying whack, and just just keep doing that. And that was one thing. And then the other thing, it kind of came about. I have a distinct childhood memory. I don't know how old I was, and I was angry, and my mom was like, and there was a banana, and she's like, here, quick, just crush this banana in your hand. And I just crushed it, which is also probably Freudian. But and I again, I don't even remember what I was angry about, but like, you could do that. Like, you could deal with your anger, like punching bag or something like that,
Right.
But if you keep it in and you are very wrathful, it is going to manifest itself somewhere, you go first this time. You make him go first last time, yeah. I hope this doesn't start a fight.
I let him go.
Oh.
Is that like a healthy way to outlet your anger, or are there, like, is that the best way to do it?
It's a healthy way to do damage control, and in that sense, it's a healthy way to outlet your anger. It's not going to deal with the underlying wrathfulness in your personality, but we said that's not what the pasuk seems to be dealing with, right?
Okay. It's not deal with the pieces.
Yeah, how to deal. Yeah, and this is also, by the way, unusual Mishlei advice, because a lot of the pasukim we've done, really the time to think about them is not in the heat of the moment. This one is addressing in the heat of the moment, So if it's for the bystander / moderator, then that's fine, because he's not in the heat of the moment. But my application to the wrathful person, of like, if you are a wrathful person and you know this pasuk, then it is saying basically like, this is how you can just reroute it, just reroute it at this point. And like, I'll say, like, I've definitely, again, not that it's the exact same scenario, I've definitely used this, like, when I was in teaching high school, and let's say I'm going through something in my own life, and let's say it is a long day, and like, I'm teaching, period 7 after teaching 6 periods, and like, I know that if I allow myself to let my buttons get pushed, then I will like snap at a student. So I'll know that like if there's any way for me to redirect this somewhere else, then I should, you know.
Well, that's not in the heat of the moment though. That's like right before.
Yeah, it's right before. Yeah. What?
I'm just laughing because you started that story. I'm just like imagining like someone coming out of like the shop, have a staff bathroom, like whipping me down.
Crushed bananas everywhere. What's going on? That's funny. Yeah. Yeah. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, but my idea though, and this might be a little bit repetitive what we said, but I feel like also part of the Havamina in the Metzudas David is that if you see like, you know, kind of like a fight going down, or not maybe not a fight where like really one guy is like, you know, flaming it, he's like the angry one in the situation. So a person might be hesitant to save the victim of the wrath because A, you think it might net end up as worse damage. Because if I pull this guy away from him, he might just go after 5 other people.
Yeah.
So you might think that overall you're saving total damage.
That's interesting.
And also, I think a person generally, I mean, this guy's a wrathful guy who's adding on to his wrath.
Yeah.
You might think that you yourself could end up being the victim. Like if I save this guy,
right,
he's gonna come after me instead.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
so
that
he's saying like go around that, or you know, overcome that fear or whatever that is, like consideration, and save the guy because it's like this is like a vada, you know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Right. Yeah. So the general message according to Metzudas David does seem to be just be aware that you cannot extinguish the guy's anger. It's going to come out somewhere, and like factor that in when you're trying to intervene. You know. Yeah.
I don't think he's necessarily saying that it's not true. I think he's saying that you have to think about whether this will happen in the situation or not.
Think what's not true.
I don't think he's saying that it's like, I don't think he's saying, you might think that if you save this guy, then he's gonna go after 5 other people, but that's not true.
No, I agree. Yeah.
Oh, you agree with
he very well might go after 5 other people, but he also might not. So you don't know. But this guy's certainly going to get damaged.
Well, yeah, I think you were saying that was Havamina of the pasuk.
No. The Havamina is to not save the guy for that reason. So it's still going to happen. That reason still exists, but that's not a reason to not save the guy. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I guess it's saying you. No, I think really the Havamina is that you're not thinking about that phenomenon. You're saying, I'll just save this guy and then there won't be any damage. That's the Havamina. And then it's saying, if you save the guy, it's going to come out in other places. Not that you shouldn't save him, but that you have to like factor that in because it might not.
Okay.
This must have to save the guy or not?
It has to.
One thing I don't understand is like, well, first off, I think it's not necessarily just save the guy or don't save the guy. It's like maybe like temper the situation. Like let's say like let's say there's like a stick that this guy's gonna try to beat the other guy up. So let's say there's like a stick that you could like be like hitting him with. You could remove that from the situation or something, and then it's like less damage or something. You know, it's not necessarily a binary decision. And then also like there's like it depends on the situation of is there like you have to like think about how is it going to come out if I do save the guy, what's going to happen? You know?
The only thing is, according to the Metzudas David, like the way we understood it was that his anger is definitely going to come out.
Yeah.
And either it's going to come out worse or exactly the same.
Right.
The level of anger that he had when he got hit. So according to that, the logical thing would be to save the kid because if it has a possibility to be greater, then you can definitely save the kid because it can only stay at one level.
But I don't know. I still don't know if like I think the reality, the real world situations are often more complicated. Like let's say like you save the kid, so then he takes it out on his wife. Like in a worse way, you know. Like that's why I'm not sure. I know the Metzudas David makes it sound like. Actually, I don't know if Metzudas David make it sound like Yuvada saved the kid. Sorry, Joe. But
I don't.
Meaning, I think he's just saying that he's pointing out a mistake in the moderation, thinking that if I remove the victim of or the object of the wrath, then it'll go away. And he's saying no. And therefore, I was saying that the practical decision-making application is you have to engage in damage control with this fact in mind. You know, sometimes that might mean saving the kid, sometimes it might mean giving the guy a punching bag, sometimes, you know, but that's the mistake, is thinking that you're going to extinguish the wrath by removing the trigger, you know? Yeah. I'm just skimming anyone else here. Oh, interesting. Look at the miухas, the Rav Ibn Ezra, the fake Ibn Ezra under Sadigon. He says Pirush Acher at the end of the first line. Al tisa nafshecha. Oh, sorry. Oh, this is yes. He's connecting to the previous one also. Don't lift your soul. Mimenu from him. Shetach shok mimenu musar. Just tach sof mimenu musar, that you to withhold discipline from him. Avaha ben shehu gadol chema. But if the son is great in wrath, all right, so that's a different reading. Mitzad chamasu hagdola, due to his great wrath, azvehu vihi makabel onsho. Abandon him and let him receive his punishment. That's interesting. Kamon nose avono, meaning bears punishment. The altis asik bahatzalach, and don't be involved yourself to save him. Im tatzilehu pam achas, sarach ata od shetosif lahasilu pa'amim rabos. Because if you succeed in saving him once, you'll have to save him many times. So this is like the on the less severe end of the scale. This is like let him learn the hard way. Like if he's really wrathful and then you're disciplining him is only going to make him more angry. So let him just get the consequences of his anger, you know. So like let him learn the hard way. And then the real severe things is like let him hit rock bottom. You know, if you keep on saving him from hitting rock bottom with his anger, was it?
He's gonna get used to it.
I mean, what do you mean? He's gonna get used to depending on you. That's also true. Yeah, that's also true. Right, that's definitely true. The other thing, though, is that he's just never going to get the full consequences of his anger, and therefore he's never going to see how destructive it can be. So it's just best to let him, you know, to let him get the full consequences, because then he's learning from himself, you know, or there's a chance for him to learn from himself. Yeah, it's interesting reading to say it's about the son. I wonder if he's getting that from the use of the word nasa, meaning because the first one is al tisa nafshecha, and instead no se onesh. You know, you should not be moved by him to rebuke him. Let him be no se onesh. Let him, because it's using the same verb, you know, let him be bear his punishment. It's not using it in the same way, but it's like, you know, it's the same word.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, good pasuk. Good pasuk, yeah.
Very good.
All right, stop here for today.
Go ahead.
Yeah.